Joining me now is a UFC fighter who has not fought since February when he was unfortunately defeated by Curtis Blaydes by TKO. He, of course, suffered a very, very gruesome knee injury, and he has been out of action recovering since then. It is Adam Milstead back on the show. Adam, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Doing really well. As I said off air, it has been a little bit, so great to chat with you again, and it's good to hear that you're doing well. Of course, got to touch on what happened in February. You, of course, Curtis Blaydes took you down and you popped your knee to a very, very gruesome injury. First question for you is, was there ever a time I think it was the commentators who even mentioned afterwards, this might be a career-changing injury, and it certainly looked like that. Was there ever a time when you figured, okay, this might have just been the end of my career?
No, I've had knee injuries before, and never once did I ever think about hanging it up and not looking back. No, I'm too close to my goal. I'm too close to where I want to be in life. So I'm going to do everything I can to get through this and come out on top.
Now, it's been over half a year. What is recovery right now looking like? How far into it are you? How far are you from 100%?
Well, I'm taking on a day-to-day basis, but I hope to be 100% by the end of the year. So we're back to training. I'm training full-time now. I had surgery in late March, and it was pretty extensive considering the injury that I had. I tore my ACL, I tore my meniscus, and I severely sprained my MCL. So almost had the whole trifecta type thing with the knee, but luckily I escaped on the MCL. But anyways, I was in surgery. Normally an ACL surgery takes about an hour and a half. I was in surgery for 4 hours. So just to show you how much damage there was and how many things that needed to be fixed. So now I'm back to rolling, striking, and lifting weights. Just had a stem cell procedure done, so hoping that will help speed up the recovery process as well.
Can you go into a bit more depth about that stem cell procedure you went through? When did that exactly happen? How did it all come together?
That happened about 2 weeks ago. I got hooked up with a guy by the name of Dr. Tom Burnett. He performed the procedure on me, and he helped me out with it as well. He's a good guy. He's a big UFC fan as well. So the procedure just basically consists of him pulling stem cells out of me and then injecting them into the affected areas. So instead of just that knee, I decided to do both knees because I've had problems with both knees in the past. So basically they just took this huge hammer-like ice pick and jammed it in my back, eventually got into the bone of my hip and pulled out bone marrow, which holds a good amount of stem cells. And from there, they took it out and injected it in the knees. And then about probably 5-6 days ago, I had a PRP done, which is a platelet-rich plasma. Basically, that's where they pull out blood from your arm or wherever, and they spin it, and they take the plasma from that spinning cycle, and then they inject it into the affected areas as well. And that sort of kind of really jump starts the stem cell healing process. So that was all pretty much done last week and this week. So now I'm just kind of letting everything happen, and hopefully, the knee's going to start feeling good here. I mean, it's already starting to feel pretty good, but hopefully it'll be back to where I can really spar and go hard soon.
Excellent. Well, it's good to hear that you're nearing 100%, that you're back in the gym full-time, as you said. How difficult has this 2017 year been for you? Just because you had the one fight in February, and since then you've just been recovering, and that's it. I know, you still have your full-time job, correct? So financially, this might not have been a super difficult year, but just mentally not being able to fight and do what you love, how difficult has it really been?
It's been really difficult. Just 2 weekends ago, I was at the UFC Pittsburgh show, and I had to sit there in the audience and watch all these guys who have nothing to do, no correlation with Pittsburgh, fight, and nobody in the fans had anybody really to root for from the city. So it made me feel down on myself that I wasn't able to be healthy enough to get in there and fight in front of the city, but
sort of bittersweet. Just because I'm sure you were glad to see, in your city, UFC back in your city, but also, of course, as you said, bittersweet because you weren't in the cage.
Right. Yeah. I'm grateful I was able to sit there and watch it, and it was a good card. I don't think UFC puts on bad cards in Pittsburgh, but yeah, it was. It hurt a little bit, but I'm just happy to get moving again, and hopefully one day they'll be back and I'll be able to fight in front of Pittsburgh. And
you still do have your full-time job right outside of MMA, or did you stop doing that?
Oh, no, I still got that. That's what's pretty much kept my head afloat. It would have been it would have been a disastrous injury had I just focused on mixed martial arts. I would have went a really long time without a paycheck. So, I'm thankful I still have that job, and I have a group of guys at that job who take care of me and understand the opportunity I have in the UFC. So they really kind of helped me out when I was down and out. But now I'm back to full duty, no issues. So.
I think it was last year when we last spoke, last December, I think we had talked a little bit about, if you get a few more fights and maybe you do end up leaving that full-time job, but unfortunately it seems like this injury was a bit of a step back just because you haven't been able to build your name up as much. You're still only have a couple fights, whereas if this injury didn't happen, you could be by now 3 or 4-1 in the UFC. So is it sort of fair to say that unfortunately out of your control, it's a bit step back as far as getting rid of that day job?
No, yeah. Yep, it's definitely a big setback. I wish I had the opportunity to do that. I wish I had the opportunity to give up. Many of the guys that fight in the UFC or just in general as professionals and do that as their only job have the ability to do that because they have other people who are willing to take care of them. I live on my own. I got nobody around me who's willing to really, take care of me while I, try for this dream. So, and nor am I going to ask anybody to try to take care of me. So there's a little bit of a pride issue there. But, I lived an extremely poor life before when I was going through the amateur ranks, and I don't ever want to go back to that. So that's why I continue to work and fight and train and get barely any sleep at night and live for a dream.
As far as when you fight again in the octagon, you mentioned that you'll be fully recovered by the end of 2017. So do you want 2 months just to train, and then will you be ready to go in February, March? Is that sort of when you're looking at as far as a return to the cage goes?
I was tossing around the idea of January, February, but I think I'm pushing it to March because I really want the stem cell procedure to really take hold and do some healing. So March is my go date and when I like to get back in the cage.
Excellent. And last I heard, you were talking about and pretty much committing to a drop to 205 pounds. Is that still a go?
Yeah, that's still a go. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because ever since I got to the heavyweight division is when I started getting injured. I'm believing that my body, plus the other fighter's body, just wasn't working out. It just was putting a lot of pressure on my joints and was causing a lot of pain and misery. So I'm thinking I need to drop down in order for me to fight healthy and continue doing what I do best.
Now, I know the number doesn't really reflect how tough of a weight cut you would have going down to 205. You've made it before, your pro debut, I think it was, in 2011. But just because you haven't been training or hadn't been training for quite some time, how much do you weigh right now? Do you know?
I'm roughly around 230. So.
Okay, so the cut, even though you might be a bit heavier than if you had been training all of the year, it still seems like it's going to be a pretty decent cut to 205, right?
Yeah, I tend not to leave a little too much fat on myself. So, even though I do like to eat pizza and drink beer, I am I I still don't have I have a naturally high metabolism, and so it kind of keeps me down. So I'm able to put on muscle, but not so much the amount of weight that I wanted to be in the heavyweight division. So now I got that drop down with all this muscle, so we'll see how it goes. But I've done it before. I don't seem to have that big of an issue losing weight.
Nice. Now, talk about why you are deciding to move down to light heavyweight, and when did you make this decision? Was it before the Blaydes fight? Were you planning it already, or was the Blaydes fight sort of the eye-opening and sort of when you decided to make the jump down? Just because Blaydes was by far the bigger man in there, and I think maybe did you sort of have the feeling that, hey, if I stick in this weight class, I might have future fights that, although maybe he's not actually better skill-wise, he's just so much bigger, and therefore he'll be able to, beat me. Is that sort of how you came to this conclusion?
Yeah, roughly. It was the Blaydes fight that kind of put the nail in the coffin for me. I mean, I've always had it in the back of my head, knowing that a lot of these guys are just, they're just bigger than I am. You could be athletic, you can be fast, but sometimes, that doesn't work. I mean, you're only in a 30-foot cage. Eventually they're going to catch you. So after that fight was definitely the part where I decided, my body needs to stop hurting and needs to stop, getting beat up and injured. And I believe that me walking around and fighting lighter is going to help my body and help me feel better. And, I don't think it's going to really affect my strength as much. I'm looking forward to actually being a bigger guy in a fight for once. Ever since I went to the heavyweight division, I have not once been the bigger guy in a fight. So it'll be something new to work towards. I'll be able to use new techniques. I'll be able to actually keep guys away with jabs and foot jabs and stuff like that instead of having to get on the inside of these guys. So I'm looking forward to it, actually.
What are your thoughts on the lack of depth in the 205-pound division, and did that contribute to your decision to drop down?
It helps. For sure it helps, but it doesn't matter. I don't care who I fight, and I don't care what they've gone through and who they think they are. When we get in a cage, I'm going to do the same thing I plan to do every single fight, and that's to get in there and knock the guy out and put on the show at the same process. It doesn't really matter to me, but it helps in the sense that I think the light heavyweight division needs somebody that they can look up to, somebody who can provide a little bit more motivation and inspiration, and somebody who can maybe one day wear that belt, that crown, and hold it with dignity and humility, and actually wear it the right way instead of.
I see what you're getting at here.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, so I believe I can be that person, that next up and comer that can come in and be something special in this division.
What are your thoughts in general about the 205-pound division and who we have right now at the top? Of course, John Jones is gone. You sort of, alluded to that a little bit. Daniel Cormier is the new champion. Despite losing to Jones in July, you still have Glover around, Gustafsson. Rumble's gone for now, and if he does come back, it sounds like it'll be at heavyweight. What are your thoughts in general? And I should mention Volkan Ozdemir, of course, too. What are your thoughts in general about who we have at the top right now at 205?
You're getting pretty much the similar situation with the heavyweights. Everybody's fighting each other, and I think these guys are getting used to the technical aspect of all those guys. I don't think they're going to be used to somebody who's up and coming, who's still got the killer mindset that. To go in there, and this isn't about winning or losing. This is about surviving and get in there and do everything they can to knock them out. I believe a lot of the lower division has a lot of animals that hasn't been released yet. So I'm hoping to be one of those guys, and it just takes one punch, man. It really does, and you can really make a name for yourself, and that's what I plan on doing. But those guys up there, I mean, there's a reason why they're there, for sure. But there isn't anybody there in that division that I don't think I can beat.
Excellent. Well, earlier this year, over the summer, in June to be exact, you mentioned, you talked about on Twitter briefly, you had a few issues with the UFC. You said June 16th of this year, "Hey UFC, I ripped my body for your show, and now you won't cover my medical bills. Hashtag shit company, hashtag need union." I know since then you did talk to Jeff Nowitzki. Everything seemed to be better, and you those issues were no more. Just an update: is that still the case? Are you cool with the UFC as of right now?
Yeah, for the most part. We came to an agreement that the thing about the UFC is that the medical team at least kind of goes by the book. That there is only one certain way to do this. But the problem is that not every injury is the same. Some takes, more time to heal. Some needs more therapy. Some doesn't. For me, though, I had an excruciating injury that resulted in a lot of damage, and I needed a long time to recover, as well as a lot of therapy. And therapy gets expensive, especially if you're paying out of pocket. And when it comes down to it, I mean, is it worth it to continue fighting for, $10,000 a fight, $13,000 a fight, when I have to put in, $2,000, $3,000 for medical expenses, plus all the manager fees and coaching fees and air travel and all that stuff? Is it worth it? And, that's what I was kind of banging around in my head for a while. But, we came to the conclusion, and they kind of looked over my case again, and they realized that they were in the wrong, and they held me out and, gave me a few more sessions, which I needed. And of course, when that ended, I had made a pretty good partnership with the Therapy Institute that I'm going to out here, so they're planning on helping me out the rest of the time while I'm recovering. So it all worked out in the end.
And I know you mentioned how, getting paid $10,000 a fight, is it going through this process and having to pay out of your pocket at points and all this therapy costing quite a bit of money? So is it fair to say that you did briefly, contemplate retirement? I know that was the first thing I asked you in this interview, and you said no, but I asked you because of the injury. Did you think it was too drastic to continue? But because of how much recovery costed at one point, did you, is it fair to say you did briefly contemplate stepping away?
A little bit, yeah. It's safe to say, I got a full-time job, and this job has a 401k, has a pension, I got insurance with it. It's a great job, and it's going to be here for a very long time. So, I'm looking on this, and I'm thinking about the big picture. Man, getting in there and fighting and getting beat up, I got no problem with that. I don't even have a problem with getting injured in the process. What I have a problem with is if you're not going to take care of me because I, beat my body up for your show. If you're not going to take care of me, then there's no reason for me to beat my body up. And so I was going through that and just really contemplating is fighting even for the top organization in the world. Is it even worth it? Because a lot of people don't realize this. I mean, you see us now, but you don't see us, 20 years down the road when we all barely walk. And so you got to think about that. I'm giving up my golden years for, a shot and a chance. As long as I know that I'm going to be taken care of, I got no problem with going there and laying everything out on the line. But don't take care of me, well, now we got some issues. So, yeah, I did contemplate it a bit. But once they, called me and they talked it over with me, I kind of went out of my head, and I realized, all right, let's get back to the drawing board.
Excellent. Okay, so last question for you. You, in that tweet, the last thing you had said was hashtag need union. That was, of course, before Nowitzki got in touch with you, before they started paying for your bills and all of that, and before, all this good happened. Do you still, though, agree with what you had said, and are you still in support of the launch of a fighter union?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We need to be protected. We need We need people there who's going to, just speak for the fighters, speak on behalf of the fighters, somebody who's going to look out for us. I mean, we have managers, but there's only so much that they can do. We need somebody who's actually a part of the organization who's going to be there to fight for us. I think it was something crazy like, the fighters only get 9% of the whole income of what the company makes. I mean, and so it's crazy to think about and to fathom that all that money is going to other people when we're ripping our bodies. I still think we need a union, but do I think it's possible? It is very difficult to have a union. I mean, there's a reason why there isn't a union in boxing. There's a reason, I mean, you have a union in the NFL. Well, the reason why is because, you can invest in a team. But investing in an individual like that is very difficult because that individual is his own team, and if he goes down, the whole team goes down. So it's like, do they risk that? Putting that amount of money and that amount of protection on one guy when he goes out in the first fight and gets destroyed, no longer can fight again, or some injury that happens to him. So I understand why there isn't a union and why it's very difficult to get one started in an individual sport like mixed martial arts. But I do believe that we need some sort of protection. We need somebody to step up and be a voice and to really just help us on our way through this crazy career.
Now, I know having someone like a Conor McGregor, who is not only a huge MMA star, he's mainstream-wise a big star, and everybody knows who he is. Of course, having someone like him stepping up and being that voice, as you just mentioned, would be great. But what about someone like you? I mean, are you willing to be that voice?
Yeah, of course I would. Do I have the resources? No. And as far as I always like to use the excuse, I get hit in the head a lot. So it's, having my knowledge probably, I mean, I'm sure there's smarter guys out there for that. But, I mean, if somebody did come to me and ask me, are you willing to do these? Of course I'm willing to help out. Of course I'm willing to be the voice. But that's something that you kind of want to get into at the end of your career, especially if you are the voice, because, well, I know in a lot of other companies, even our company that I work for, it's a pipeline company, they try to steer us away from union. And if anybody ever speaks of anything about union, you may never see that guy again. So it's, it's definitely a huge risk. But when it comes down to it, when it gets bad enough, yeah, I'll be the guy to step up. I got no problem doing that.
So before I let you go, there's actually one more thing I want to ask you about. Ed Cap, who I set this interview up with, he told me just over text that you were actually you had band practice at your church. Is that true?
Yeah. So
is that a new thing?
That's something I just started, and the reason why I did that is because I want to get better at playing. And I've been doing a lot of solo stuff, ever since I started playing. And so it's really nice to get with a group of individuals who really know what they're doing. And the guys that I play with in church, they are really, truly talented musicians. So it's nice to collaborate with them and just make some good music.
And are you still just vocals, or did you pick up an instrument?
Well, right now, I'm working on getting into the vocals. They've asked me many times to do that, and I said I'm not up to par right now with doing that. So right now, I'm just playing rhythm guitar and maybe backup vocals.
Excellent. Any more gigs, any more solo gigs? I know last time we talked, you had just done, I think, your first one I think it was your first gig ever. It was at a little pub. Anything like that coming up?
That same gig is coming up again. So they asked me to come in and play a whole set this time. So we'll see how it goes, man. I just have so much stuff going on with getting back in shape and working and stuff like that. So I gotta get that time management thing going, and I'll be able to start putting a good set list together and maybe start playing on a regular basis.
Excellent. Well, Adam, thank you very much for the time. It was great to catch up with you, and good luck to you, of course, in the last few months of your recovery and training and getting back in there early next year. Before I let you go, let my audience know where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you would like to thank or give a shout out to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, guys, hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Got a fan page. Hit the like and follow button. But also got to thank you, Nick, for having me on once again. It's always a pleasure. And I got to thank my coaches, my therapists who continue to push me in the right direction. Tom Burnett, my doctor, stem cell doctor, and just anybody else out there who still believes that I got a shot and who still wants to support me every step of the way. Thank you guys for always being there.